Hey Madison, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just ready for this webinar. So tell me what we're doing today.
So today we are speaking with Dr. Christopher Lynn. Chris is a biocultural medical anthropologist with expertise in evolutionary studies, human behavioral ecology, and the cultural influences on health. Chris is also the founder and co-host of the Sausage of Science podcast, which is the official podcast of the Human Biology Association. He has expertise in public engaged scholarship and science communication. And today he's going to talk to us all about networking at the conference. Can you tell us about your role at the HBA?
My role at the HBA, it's changed over the years. Currently, the an unofficial member of the Public Relations Committee, and I am the one of the co-hosts of the Sausage of Science podcast for the PR committee. And previous to that, I was the chair of the Public Relations Committee. And previous to that, I was just a committee member, like, helping with the website and stuff like that. So I've been involved with the HBA for, off and on for about 15 years since I graduated and started my career.
That's great. So you've been part of the organization for quite a while. So we wanted to ask you some questions about how students can introduce themselves to someone they don't know at a conference. So if they want to do that, what's the best way to approach someone you've never met before?
Well, the HBA is great for that in that all the sessions are held at the same time. We don't have multiple sessions going on. So getting to go to all the sessions, see everybody talk, getting to go to the poster sessions, it is makes that easy. Going to the poster sessions, especially, is a way at the HBA to get to know people, go up and talk to them, ask them about their work. But in general, we're all there to meet students. We want to recruit students. We want to get students into our program. And anybody who's at the HBA is already ambitious enough in their career to be someone worthy of our interest. So the easiest way is just to go up and talk about research, to say, hey, can you tell me about your poster? Hey, I saw your talk. I'd love to hear more about blank. Using and we're all a little bit bookish and shy, so using having that subject matter to talk about is really what makes it easiest to open up a conversation with someone.
So, speaking of being shy, are there any strategies that you have or any suggestions for people who are maybe a little bit more introverted?
Yeah, there's a lot of good strategies for that. And I got to say, I've learned from some of the best, including you, right? Like watching extroverts operate, watching extroverts put on a show. I'm not an extrovert by any stretch of the imagination, even though I run a podcast and people think I like to talk. But I like to do it in really contained circumstances. So I learned how to do things like, hey, I like your jacket. Hey, I like your vest. Hey, I like your mustache. Hey, I like your hair. Hey, things like that really are ways to sort of just start a conversation. And then you can ask people, so are you presenting? When are you presenting? All of those things are totally legit. Nobody's going to be brushing you off because you complimented them. And it's really a great way to get people to smile and to be happy to see you. So I study people who are really good at talking to other people, sort of listen for what they say, how they open up their conversations, and I then turn right around and use the same thing. I'll see people sitting, say, in the lounge talking to someone, and I'll just, if I know one person, I'll join the conversation, just kind of sit down and say, hey, what's up? And what are we talking about? And everybody's there to schmooze and network. So they'll always welcome you into one of those conversations, even though it feels kind of weird to do that. Um, it's what we're all there for.
Those are great tips and strategies, especially for people who might feel a little intimidated. So after you make that initial introduction, what kinds of tips you have to make kind of an memorable impression, especially if those interactions are kind of brief. So in between presentations or after a networking event, what would you say is a good way to make a memorable impression so they remember your name?
One of the best ways to, this is very, very basic. Have a business card. Have a business card that's cool, even. I've had people show me their digital business cards or give me one of these fancy pieces of plastic now that just has a URL on it or something. But even just a basic business card with your name and your email. And when you meet people, hand them your business card, ask them for theirs. Not everybody does have them. But that's one of the ways that you'll be remembered, and one of the ways that people will end up reaching back out to you after they've seen you is by you having given them your business card. And by the same token, when people give me their business cards, I always use my name tag to sort of hold business cards in it. I tuck them all into the name tag and I keep mine in there as well, so I have them at the ready. And then as soon as I go home, I pull all those business cards out and I write an email to those people to say, hey, it was really great talking to you about blank. Sometimes you have to write notes on the backs of them so you remember what you talked to them about, but uh, it's a great way to connect, especially if it's someone you're interested in collaborating with or doing something with at a future juncture. Because a lot of the people we're meeting with, that's one of the things we want to do. We want to get into grad school or we want to collaborate on something or hell, we want to be friends and have someone that we can hang out with at the next meeting. And making those exchanges is a great way to do it.
Okay, so smiling, just going for it in conversations, having business cards, following up with emails, all great strategies. What about mistakes people make? What are things people should avoid doing at the conference in terms of networking?
Yeah, so this can go in lots of different directions. Some things that have made bad impressions on me, even students that I have brought, not talking to people, right? Hiding out in one's room, um, running down to the weed dispensary and then staying stoned the whole time, getting too drunk. These are all things that happen that I've seen happen, right? Um, uh, the hardest thing for a lot of folks to do, again, is to put on that happy face and to talk even though they don't feel like talking. So the worst thing one can do is simply stand behind their advisor or stand by themselves, even worse, at their poster or whatever, not engage folks, right? You got to almost sort of be like a carnival barker. Hey, you want to come see my poster? If people walk by, don't let them just walk by. Hey, can I tell you about my poster? And they're not gonna say no. The worst they'll say is I have to be someplace real quick, but nonetheless, like that's what they're there for. And then you can give them your card, you can do those things that I mentioned. But yeah, the worst thing you can do is just to stand around silently, to not communicate with people, to be a wallflower the whole time. You've got to really put yourself out there a little bit to get something back.
That's a good point. So after the conference, what are some effective ways to connect with someone? How would you initiate that kind of follow-up conversation? I know you mentioned sending emails after collecting those business cards. Do you have any other tips and strategies?
Now that's the main one, right? Just really making an effort to, and if they don't have business cards, to pull out keep a journal with you so you can write down stuff in sessions that was interesting to you, meaningful to you, names of people that you may have met, that you may have encountered. Um, I'll be super honest with you. One of the reasons I started a podcast in the Human Biology Association is so I can meet people in the Human Biology Association. I wanted to be known and I wanted to know who other people were. So finding ways to get involved in the like you're doing, getting involved in service positions where you have opportunities to meet people. And then when you're home, don't wait for the call for next year to start thinking about sessions or things. Now, HBA doesn't do sessions like AA, BA, or AAA do, but we all go back and forth to different societies. So start thinking about the kind of people that you want, not the kind of people, the people. Think about the people who you would want to do a session with that if you've met them, when you get home, email them. Say, hey, I think we should start thinking about a session for next year. Hey, I think we should collaborate on something. One of the single best pieces of advice I ever got, and I got it at an HBA workshop, was that if you meet someone you like, come up with a way to write a paper together, right? We often think it's the other way around. We think it's, oh, we have a paper, let's look for the expert. But no, find someone that you already like and get along with, and who you think would be easy to work with, and find your commonality. Courtney and I did that with a paper um, on about the podcast, publicly engaged scholarship in human biology, right? So when you and I did that on purpose. I was like, I like working with her in one capacity, so I want to work with her in another capacity, right? And that's how I think, who was it? Dan Hrushka was the person cited as being exceptional at doing that. He's not active in the society lately, but someone that Alex Brewis pointed out was very, very good at that, who's at Arizona State with her.
Yep. Speaking of getting involved with the HBA, are there any mentorship opportunities with the Human Biology Association? And if so, how can students get involved? What can they do to really get involved in the organization?
So I'm not directly involved with the community building and networking programs, but we do have those within the Human Biology Association where they pair students up with mentors who have volunteered themselves. I believe I volunteered myself at some point. I haven't yet had the opportunity to mentor a student, but basically they connect a mentor and a mentee, and the goal of which is to shepherd someone through the process of presenting at the meeting. So how to develop an abstract from one's work, how to develop a poster or a talk from one's work, and then the kind of questions you're asking today, how to present that and how to put on a good show at the meetings and capitalize on any sort of feedback one gets.
So, our last question is, what final piece of advice would you give to students who are attending the conference and are hoping to build meaningful connections with new people?
Show up at the conference ready to schmooze. Um, it's it's the kind of thing. So I used to work in the music industry, and one of the things that I learned from working in the music industry was exactly what they always say. It's not what you know, but who you know, right? And we're anthropologists. We under social interaction is the bread and butter of what we study. So learning from the people that we work with, learning how they do things, should be applied to what we do, right? So come to the conference uh ready to be in a good mood, even if you don't feel like you're in a good mood. Come to the conference ready to make new friends, meet new people, and to put yourself out there a little bit and be vulnerable, because everybody's in the same situation. Those folks who are new are all new together and feel sort of raw and nervous together. Those of us who look like we belong are look that way because we've made friends in the association, but we were once in the same place that the new people were in. So I've been told, I never feel it, but I've been told that I look like I belong because I know a lot of people, and I've done it on purpose through the podcast and through other mechanisms. And by developing a group of people who you collaborate with maybe and work with outside of the meetings, when you go to the meetings become something you look forward to all year long. and they become a place where like all the sparks are flying in terms of like developing new research projects and getting excited about the field once again. They can be so inspiring, and a lot of that comes with that interpersonal uh that interpersonal dynamic that happens when you're not giving a talk, when you're hanging out and going to somebody else's session or talking in the speed dating opportunities that the students usually hold for speed networking, as they call it. Those sort of conversations that happen when you're least expecting it are the ones that will stick with you after the meeting and make you want to reach back out to those people.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. That has been very helpful and informative. If folks want to come say hi to you at the conference, should they approach you?
They should absolutely approach me, and they can say they saw me on the webinar. They can say they've heard me on the podcast. They can say just heard of you. They can say I just saw your name tag and wanted to be friendly. Like you don't have to even pretend that you know me. I'm eminently approachable, even if my face doesn't say so. I always say to people like I have a resting douchebag face, right? So sometimes I don't look like I'm approachable, but I'm there. I'm there to talk to people just like everybody else. And if I'm standing alone, I'm probably feeling awkward and wish I was talking to someone. So I felt relevant as well. We're all, uh, no matter where we are in the hierarchy, supposed hierarchy of things, a lot of us have imposter syndrome and have the same sort of emotional turmoil that students do and that newer people to the organization do.
If people want to get in touch with you before or even after the conference, how can they find you?
Well, I can be emailed at cdlynn@ua.edu. I'm also on Twitter, X, at Chris_LY. I'm also on Facebook, my full name, Christopher Dana Lynn. What else is out there? I'm on Instagram, Cheech Sweet. That's my old stage name. So you can find me lots of places.